Today we wanted to talk about something that is controversial, but we think is important. And that is that we wanted to tell you that following Christ and living in community is an answer to oppression for Black and brown people in America today. And what is this in conversation with? Well, in the media we see a lot of liberation and freedom being pushed in Black and brown culture that is very sexualized and dark in certain ways. And oppression is real. And since all of our ancestors came from Africa on the slave boats, that has been a reality for us, for my family. Maureen's family is Nigerian, so maybe not, maybe her ancestors weren't enslaved, but she's a Black woman in America and has suffered racism, just like all of us have. But what we're trying to get at in this video is, what do we see as the answer for oppression or racism or racist structures? Because they're there and they have been in this country. And we just wanted to share that what we found can be an answer.
I think definitely similarly to Ruben, and I think for both of us, we both made a conscious decision as adults, even though we both grew up here. It was not birthright to stay here at all. We both decided ourselves as adults to become part of this church. And I think that's really important. And I know a lot of friends that I have are just like, Maureen, we can't believe you live there in this community. And it just highlights again the fact that it is possible. It is possible to try to live out Jesus' commands as best you can with other people. And it doesn't matter what color you are, Black, brown, Asian, Hispanic, anything. It doesn't matter. Here we're biracial, living in a community that's mostly white, and it actually works. It works fine. And yes, maybe there's sometimes a little misunderstandings about this and that with cultural stuff, but you know what? That's also an opportunity for education and talking to each other and finding out about each other and learning new things, which I think is really good. So I just think that it is possible to do for anybody, and it's a very good thing because you can express yourself freely. You can be proud of who you are, proud of your culture, and putting your faith first brings it all together, and it doesn't create a culture war, if you will,
or a race war, yeah.
Or a race war, or any of that stuff.
And my whole adult life, I've always wondered how to talk about this to Black and brown people, how to talk about how, first of all, faith in Jesus, and second of all, life in community can answer economic issues, can answer issues of broken families. All these issues that we know are very prevalent in our communities. And it's really interesting because even though we lived in the Bruderhof, which is predominantly white, but most families were intact, those same struggles of keeping our family together, because of culture, because of infidelity, because of whatever their issues are, were in our own families. And this is completely not to blame anyone, but I really think that if African Americans and Hispanics, or minorities in general, if we look at what the problems actually are in our communities, we will see that maybe there is a lack of more of us going to the church, or more of us being a community around each other and supporting. And it's really interesting. One of the books that my dad made me read was Destruction of Black Civilization by Chancellor Williams. And in that book it describes how African cultures before colonization were communal, and how that they supported their children and supported their old people very similarly to what we do here, to make life flourish. And yes, it wasn't Christian necessarily. In Ethiopia there was, the oldest Christian church is in Ethiopia. And there were definitely communities going on, or Coptic communities in Egypt. But that all got destroyed because of colonization. And of course was destroyed generation after generation in this country from enslavement.
Yes, I agree. I just want to underline again that, relating again to the freedom part that we had talked about in a different video, the freedom to truly be yourself. And this is not, I have to be myself as defined by the general culture. I have to fit into this box of what it means to be black, or what it means to be biracial, or what it means to be Hispanic or Asian or Latin American, any of those things. Yourself as God wanted you. And I think that's a huge part of living here, and the freedom that we've found, that we can be ourselves as God wanted us to be. And yes, we are very different from a lot of other people here. We are, and people actually appreciate it. And they want to come cook food with us, or, listen to African music, this kind of thing. Just small examples, but I think it's just important that we don't have to be defined by how culture thinks of what we should be.
Yes.
Because it's often not like a positive thing. And a lot of the time it's actually trying to push an agenda.
Yes.
And separate people. Like, oh, you should be black and do this because this is what white people do.
Yes.
And where is that getting anybody? Nowhere. It's really actually just putting us back 50 years.
Exactly.
Which is really sad.
And that's exactly why we often take issue with pop culture, even though for me, this really isn't Maureen's problem, I am often attracted to the music industry because I love music. I'm more inclined to be attracted to those things and listen to that music, but some of it I just can't listen to because frankly it's nasty, and it's putting these ideas in my mind of to be black, to be male means these things, and they're frankly not of God. I mean, sorry if that offends anyone, but they're not. So Maureen's point is 100% true. It's how can we create communities, and it doesn't have to be the Bruderhof, but how can we create communities where they're actual communities where black people who have suffered oppression, especially, that's who this video is for, can be free to be who God made them to be, not what culture is trying to make you into, because that's also a ridiculous pressure that's totally unnecessary. Totally unnecessary. By the way, Martin Luther King talked about the beloved community and literally described overcoming all these systemic issues, systemic racism, by sharing and caring and believing in God. So it's that simple.
And everyone can do it wherever they're at. Even if you don't live in a physical community like this, it's just a life thing that we can do wherever we are, whether we live in New York City or Albany or Los Angeles, Chicago, or in another country. It really doesn't matter. If you put your faith in God first and caring for each other and finding people who share faith with you and being mutually supportive in a good way, that will solve a lot of problems, I think.
Cool. So hopefully that gives us all, those of you watching and us too, something to think and talk about, and let us know how you feel about that. So see you later.